Hey everybody, this is Mel Whaley with TenTalk.org, and I have Mr. Matt Tillery here from the Homeless Coalition. Hello. And we are going to talk a little bit about his programs, what he's doing here in Knoxville. And so, Matt, you want to talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, so it's really great. So we're the Tennessee Valley Coalition for the Homeless. We actually don't exist in Knoxville. So what we do is we partner a lot with the Knox County Homeless Coalition already that exists, as they're the Continuum of Care. We're the Continuum of Care around the 12 counties that are around that. So the 8 adjacent counties around Knox, and then we extend to the other counties like Campbell County, Monroe County, things like that. So we have those. Really what we do is we specialize in 3 different areas. So we have service, education, and leadership. So our services, we have 2 awesome case managers, and I got a shout out to Brandon and Virginia. You all are our angels, honestly. But we have our 2 case managers, and Brandon operates the Operation Restore program, which is our veterans program that's a permanent supportive housing through Housing First model. Virginia operates the general location, and so anybody who is has chronically homeless and is in need, they can come to her and be housed in specific strategic locations in our 12 county continuum. Our services, our education component, we're going out to a lot of our in our COC and our continuum and providing anything from the HMIS database that we maintain and operate through HUD. So we have that, and I just got through with a training yesterday, training our folks up in Blount County at the Family Promise up there, and just wonderful ladies up there doing some great work. But that's really a privilege that we get to do as a mom, that we get to be able to go into these sites and train them on everything from HMIS, suicide prevention, with QPR working in tandem with Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network. And so a lot of this training and education on what are our homeless folks working with, or homeless neighbors rather, what are our neighbors dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and how can we better provide those services.
So let me ask you, what's the count of the homelessness in our area?
So in I guess 2014, there was a biennial study that Dr. Roger Noe really led here in Knox County, and then their count for the biennial study was 9,806.
Wow!
That actually increased on the next 2-year span. And so in 2016, what they're looking at, and they're currently going and doing in 2018, is they're doing that as well. So they're going to have another biennial study, and so we'll see. But what really is great is we're able to see our point in time data, and so the point in time is really the snapshot that happens every January nationwide, and we really get to see a snapshot of our homeless folks and where they're at. So there's a lot of street outreach and a lot of shelter count and a lot of things like that. But in the continuum, we're seeing a lot of pushback with some people that aren't necessarily wanting to come full front and deal with the fact that there is homelessness. So that's another thing, is really destigmatizing not only homelessness and what that is, but working with folks who are in power, who are really wonderful people to work with, but don't have the time to, or don't think that they have the time to be able to do that. And so when we're able to say, yes, we want to be here for this person, we need to know exactly how many we're talking about.
So just for everybody to know, when you say continuum, what are you talking about?
So our state has 9 continua of care. So the continuum, when I say it, is the 12 counties that surround Knox for the Tennessee Valley Continuum of Care. Knoxville has one dedicated to itself. It's Knox County rather. It's the Knox County Homeless Coalition, and so they are themselves a continuum of care as well.
And what do you see as far as the demographics or the backgrounds? If you could give the description of who is the homeless in our area.
Ever changing, and right now we're seeing a real rise, and I think it's simply because we're truly paying attention now, and all the way from HUD, so the federal government, all the way to the local level. We're seeing a real rise in youth homelessness. So that's one of the bigger trends that we're seeing, and I think the funding availability for that really shows that that's out there. There was a national or a federal rather grant for the Youth Homelessness Development Program, that was recently put out, and so I really look forward to seeing a lot more rural locations as well as urban locations really dive in, and something that could be replicated across continua or states or anything like that. So our youth, what we're really seeing is not only our actual street homeless, and so camping out, things like that, especially here in the area. South Knox, there's a crew of kids that meet at the Burger King just because it's a safe spot. And so what we also see is a lot of precariously housed. So kiddos that are doubling up with friends for as long as they can, as long as they'll have somebody let them, and then they move on. And so we want to make sure that find out really the true causes of their individual homelessness, and really find out ways that we can fix that so that we can really attack what's going against our people to make them to cause the homelessness.
Do you think there's enough resources here right now to take care of this 9,000 population? I mean, what's the shortcomings that you guys have struggles with to try to tackle what your mission is?
Funding. Pure and simple, it's just the funding. Mayor O'Hara has done a wonderful job. She actually has a mayor's roundtable to end homelessness, and it is a fantastic group of people that I'm very proud that I once got to work with before changing over to Tennessee Valley. But she is doing a wonderful job in trying to address what are the homeless issues, and really, have a data-driven process to find out what we can do strategically with the funding that's already existing, and as well as providing money toward certain efforts. So I think as far as resources, meaning people, I think we've got a lot of that. I think there's an abundance of that. What's short is the actual housing inventory.
Oh, the housing, okay.
The literal housing for somebody to be able to move in that's appropriate for their level of care. So, not everybody's going to do great in a public housing authority because they have either undiagnosed, unmanaged behavioral health issues. And so they may not have transportation to be able to get to a case manager so that they can truly be cared for. So we need to see a lot more diverse housing types. Is what I would love to see across the nation. This isn't just a Knoxville problem. This isn't just a Tennessee Valley Appalachian problem. This is across the nation. So having things like permanent supportive housing types, like project-based vouchers, more landlords who are accepting HUD vouchers and things like that. And I think that is really the biggest stick in the whole machine that's unable for it to roll. And so once we have the available housing for folks to be able to go into, then I think we can really talk about what can we do from there.
Yeah, and you bring up a point, and I want to ask, so from what you know, what percentage do you think is it of the homeless that actually have a mental health diagnosis that is going untreated right now?
It's not dissimilar to the general population. So I think we know that 1 in 10, 1 in 4 people, 1 in 10 people have a diagnosis that they either have undiagnosed or unmanaged or a potential diagnosis. And I think we have of that we have a quarter of people who have severe and persistently mental ill. And so I think really looking at that and understanding that those stats aren't dissimilar from even people who are addicted. And so there's not a huge jump that at least we've seen in recent records that people are suffering from acute issues that are ongoing, or even things that are like chemical dependence and things isn't very dissimilar to the general population of people.
So what's the deal, you think, for them trying to get housing and jobs? What's the biggest hurdle for them to get out of the position they're in that they're facing?
I think a lot of it is case by case basis. To be general and speaking about it, I think a lot of it is really just having that support system. Recently, I had some car trouble and I got my car back, and then I had an accident. And so I've been without my car this year for a little over 4 weeks. And if I didn't have the support system with my mother, hey mom, and my wife, hey Christina, and but seriously, and without that support system, if I can't imagine having a job that was dependent on me to be there, and if I'm 5 minutes late, I'm fired. And so making sure that that we provide margins for these people to have mistakes and to have mess ups, and that they're not living on those very slim margins and things, and also being able to have access to certain things like transportation. Transportation is vital in every realm and aspect that we talk about, whether it's homelessness, whether it's chronically dependent on chemicals and substance abuse, regardless of what we're talking about. That's really the key to being able to do that. It's wonderful if we can get somebody to the doctor. It's miraculous if they can get to the doctor, the medical provider or the behavioral provider the first time. If they can get back to them, if they can understand their medication regimen and be able to access, meaning that they have the money to buy that and not have to worry whether they need breads or meds, and can really truly make all those things function, that's where we see things rolling for that person. And that's where we really see the eventuality that someone's autonomy and independence can really be there to prop them up to become independent and better for themselves.
Well, and how long's the average time someone would stay homeless from your experience, from what you know, or is it just all over the board?
I really don't know that. I'll need to go back and look at that, because that's really something. I think we all have standards that we really try to work on. Like I can tell you the goal, at least with Tennessee Valley, is to make sure that we have a functional zero. So like in Anderson County, Torch, with their executive director, Andy O'Quinn, he was incredible for a few months, making a functional zero of homelessness in his own center. And it was because he has made the relationship with all the landlords in the area. And when somebody came in and he said, okay, we're going to make sure that we're going to ameliorate some of the risk that you have as the landlord, and make sure that you can take on somebody that may be a little bit riskier than your normal lease person that's coming in, your normal tenant. But we're going to be there and walk all those steps with you. So for several months, he ran out of money after this, and ran out of the funds for that grant. But he saw a functional zero. So we're confident that can happen, and truly be able to address someone's homelessness and say, okay, here's where we go and here's where we move on to. But we know that it gets expensive, but it's far less expensive to have that than the ongoing and chronic homelessness of people. The recidivism of our jails, the health cost and the general cost of police officers, having loitering or public intoxication, or just general trespassing issues. That takes a lot from our law enforcement in time to be able to have our officers who have dropped people off in front of my doors when I worked at Cherokee and said, hey, we've got this person. We know he's not eligible to go in. He's not in crisis, but he just needs help. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of good folks out there, in uniform and not, that are willing to do the exact same thing. And I think we just need to be able to be ready to take on the position when somebody comes to our doors.
Well, and I think that's a good point that Matt brings up, is basically because it affects everything: our jail systems, our welfare system, our tax dollars. And to be almost at 10,000 in just this area of homelessness is definitely some heavy weight. So, what can people do right now to help your mission that you're on? Like, what can they do? How can they get involved?
So there's a lot of free trainings, and I think one of my biggest passions is suicide prevention. And so there are a lot of free trainings that they can look into, and please contact Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, and they have a QPR, Question, Persuade, Refer, and it just preps you for the ability. Our Tennessee Highway Patrol men and women are actually using that program and identifying people who may be in crisis, maybe not, but being able to find out what they need to do when the S word comes up, when suicide comes up. Absolutely volunteer here locally. We have an awesome organization called Volunteer East Tennessee. Mm-hmm. You can get into. You can even filter out specific things that you like and are excited about and are passionate about, and you can say, here's when I'm available, here's who I want to help, and what have you got for me? And they have an entire database and clearinghouse for that. So I think if you aren't able to donate your money, because money's always going to be needed and always will be, donate your time. And even nonprofits like ourselves, sometimes we utilize our volunteers to write thank you notes to people who have donated. So it can be as simple as that. So you don't have to necessarily get your hands dirty or anything if that's not your style, if that's not something that really wants you to do something, but you still want to help somebody. There's a lot that you can do with a lot of our great organizations in town.
Well, thank you, Matt.
Yeah,
and
thank you so much.
Yeah, and we're wanting to raise awareness about this because this is definitely a key piece in working together to rise up from where we're at as a whole. Okay, so Matt, if somebody needs to get a hold of you and wants to volunteer or contact you, how do they do that?
Yeah, thank you. Please go up to our website. It's www.tvchomeless.org. That's Tennessee Valley, and so you can go on there. My email is mtillery@tvchomeless.org. Please reach out to me, and if you have any questions or just want any knowledge about anything that we do, or have any questions about anything that we have, I highly would love for you to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks,
and
man.
I hope that again, if you want to find out more information, please contact Matt, see how you can get involved. Again, this is a huge need that I feel needs a whole lot of attention than what it's giving now. So have a great rest of the day. And again, this is tenntalk.org, TENNTALK.org. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.